Welcome back to another episode of Chris and Retro. Today I have a long friend of mine, Sarah Beverly. She's been beside me for my entire recovery journey and was pretty instrumental early on. Today we'll get to know Sarah a little bit in a short conversation. We do have some video issues, so I've just shown a picture of who she is. But Sarah's going to talk about her history, and we're going to talk about peer work in particular and zero in on that, and you know, share our opinions. Anyway, welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you, Chris.
We're laughing a little bit because we did this intro once already and it sounded a lot better than that one, but I didn't hit record. So we're going to try again. But Sarah, tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what brought you here.
Well, I think I'll give the summarized version. So I'm a person in recovery. I just celebrated 9 years in September.
That's awesome.
I've been to jail. I've was looking at a 9-year prison term, and I decided that recovery was going to be better than prison. And I also had 4 babies at home. So
that a good decision for them. I know that you've talked a lot about how they've driven a lot of your decision making and a lot of your moving forward. What do you think about that makes them so powerful in your life? Other than, I think we get cliche about our kids, but you genuinely love your children.
I do. And I have, we always have that afterthought when, now I think back, I could have been a better mom, but they are, they've been with me every step of the way. I did not want to lie to them when I went to jail. I wanted them to know where I was so I could see them. A lot of people thought I was selfish for doing that, but my kids really, really don't remember too much of coming into the jail and seeing me that way. What they do remember is their mom getting better and coming back and kicking ass, so to speak. So
yeah. Well, the thing but I think the reason they do get cautious about that, I had the same people say they have the same conversation with me. I wanted to see my kids as well, but I think that so many of us don't. The math doesn't say that we're going to recover. So that at that point, people are looking out for the kids. You obviously knew in your heart what you were going to do, just as I did. But I think that for the vast majority of people that struggle, that might not be the best plan. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Is it just because of your situation it made sense, or are you a proponent for doing that all the time?
I think I think it would vary by situation. I've worked with a lot of people in recovery with kids, who either they're just too young, or the circumstances are very different. I had very understanding fathers with my children, and I had family that would assist with that. And there's other situations I've seen where maybe the kid shouldn't see mom like that right now.
Right. Because they may want better days, but might not be sure if they can even do it yet.
Right. And I think they need to get that going before they can make that decision.
Right. Well, I wanted to talk briefly. I'll tell you my version of the story, and then you can tell your version of the story if you want about how we met. I think it leads into why we're both pretty passionate about one element of this work. I guess before I get into that, what are you doing currently?
Right now, I've actually taken a little hiatus from peer work, and I'm a director of the Healing Communities grant through Columbia University for Yates County. It's near and dear to me because it's my home county, and it's cool to see some changes being implemented and coming, and I'm right on the forefront of it. I'm working with some pretty powerful people in the community. So
that's one thing I love about you, Sarah, is you get bored with the things that are difficult. I love that you're willing to step into the fight and start swinging. Because I mean, let's get real. There's only so much lip service we can do to get people better. Somebody's got to just step up and do the work, and you always do.
Right. I mean, sometimes you need a break too. So I get bored. I get, I need to move around, but I pure work's in my blood. I can do it in my sleep. This stuff is I'm out of my element a little, and I'm okay with that. So.
That's development. You'll get there. You don't have to know everything about a promotion. You got promoted because people saw a possibility in you. It's your job to figure out if you can actually do the job or not.
Right.
That's you. Most jobs you get promoted into incompetency for a minute or two. I think that peer work for me is about those around me that are willing to invest in the work that we're doing. So, there is formal peers, especially here in New York State, with the certifications we go through and that type of thing. But our peer work is who we are and people in recovery, and the advocacy that we have for those that come alongside us. I think you and I are with the same mindset, is that we'll invest wholeheartedly in those that are willing, but we also have been at this long enough that we can smell that people that aren't necessarily serious at this time, at least. And
That's
so with that, I think it's a pace. But I met Sarah a few years back here. It's a little about 5.5 years ago, and I was in jail at the time for the last of my indiscretions. I was there for about 6 months in a county jail, and I was starting to believe in some possibilities, but I was basically the scribblings of a madman in a jail cell because I believed what I could do, and the people around me thought I was just insane, just another person, coming up with their pipe dream. And I was being very specific about it and occupying my time that way. And I had a peer that came in faithfully all the time and was the only person that was faithful all the time, except for my parents who would come in on visitations. But you were always there. When you said you'd be there, you'd be there. And so for me and my recovery, that version of the peer work that you did was critical because you allowed me to express some ideas in an environment that gave me some credibility that I wasn't just insane still. So
right.
that was super important for me. And so that's my version of how we met. I'm curious, what your take is on that work and what you did during that time. Why were you even there?
Well, I was sent in for reentry peer position, another position that I went into. And it was cool because I got to work with people at ground zero and uh, work on things before they got out. And when they talked to me and when I was in jail, it was always, when you're in here, you're safe, but it's what you do when those doors open because Satan's going to be waiting for you right there.
For
I
sure.
don't know what some spiritual beliefs are around that, but that's what I believed. So I really I went in, met with people, tried setting things up for when they got out, whether it be DSS. If they needed a drug court thing, I would go in and do a referral for a bed to bed transfer. And then I would do groups and I would do one-on-ones. And that's how I stumbled onto you.
Yeah. You stumbled right in a little room with a bunch of people harassing us from the outside. But you talked about spiritual component, and we do have. It seems like whenever that comes up, you've got to dance with it. If God is your higher power, if something else is your higher power, you got your. We're too careful with what that is. I mean, whatever it's been for you in your path, that's what you drew some strength from. For me, it was God. On this channel, I have a wide variety of people in their position on that subject. So for me
Mhm.
and my journey, you weren't there bringing me God per se or anything like that. You were allowing me to be a human in my recovery. I was not an addict in front of you. I was
Right.
just another human being sharing some ideas. That's successful to me in being a peer. And I learned a lot from you in that case. And so when some of my first work that I did getting out of incarceration to get back was being a peer. And your style made sense to me because I always thought of it as being a cold position, but it really was your relatability that made the difference.
Right.
The God piece was happening for me on my own through calling that I believe in my life had needed a very strong component of God. It needed that piece because the lane I would eventually be in needed an understanding of all that. And it was important. So we have a lot of people on here. I actually just interviewed a guest this weekend that has seen a lot too. He's 38 years in prison, and that episode will drop in November. And so you're going to see the spectrum of guests that I have. I mean, he's not coming with anything that has anything to do with God and that type of thing. But he's also showing how far things can fall without proper influence from parents and others around you. So you're getting a lot of people coming to you as in your role with no other positive influences. How do you handle that?
How do I handle people coming to me?
So they've coming to you and you're really their only source of guidance. And as soon as they leave you, they're going to get hit with all that other crap that got them there. What do
I
you do to
gotta,
manage it?
I mean, everybody's different. Um, like with you, I knew you were serious. I knew at that point in time you were serious about recovery. You were serious about doing the right thing. I used to love our conversations when you would call me shortly after you got out and be like, "All right, Sarah, tell me what I don't want to hear today.
Mm-hmm.
Give it, you're going to give it to me honest." Some people you have to tiptoe around for a little while until you don't want to go in there and be this vicious truth teller. Um, Other people, I work with what I got. If it's just conversation, and some of the people I've worked with have never had a true person they can count on to just be there, to just listen. Um, and that's, to me, that's more empowering for me because I can be that person for them. I can show them what friendships are, and I can show them what, conversation is and what's appropriate and what's not, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw you do that. That's what you did. That's what you did with me too. So you allowed. So here's the thing. I think here's why what I loved, why I'd ask you that question is because I was either around a Christian community that was telling me that all I needed to do is read the Bible. And I actually believe heavily in reading the Bible. I heavily believe in God for my spiritual life and what it
Mhm.
is that makes me healthy. However, there were some tactics that I needed to get through. There were some physical elements that need to be dealt with. So they're telling me one thing, and that's one component that I have to behave a certain way for them to, so that we can communicate. I go into a treatment facility that's more about, a little too rah-rah for me. I had all this like fluff in my ears with everybody. I felt like everybody around me was like white knuckling to keep me from going back to drink. And all
Yep.
I just needed somebody in front of me is to say, do this, this, and this. I didn't need any
Mhm.
fluff. I knew that my emotions got me there in the first place. I was a hot freaking mess. The last thing I need to do is feel good about the situation I'm in. I need work done, and I need somebody who's going to give me that work, and you always did.
Yeah. And I also look forward to coming in and hearing your eye black chronicles.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was called back then, right?
It's still what's funny is that it's that was resurrected with this show. So
Hmm.
the work that you did then led through a podcast, then another went 3 seasons, and now we're doing this show. And the iBlack Chronicles is actually on the site resurrected again, and that all started iBlack 37. So.
Awesome. Awesome.
But yeah, I appreciated everything you did. So we work with people now, and some we're falling short. And I think I'll put this opinion out there, and if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I've put out the stats about how we're failing in the recovery community right now. We are miserably failing. We're failing in agencies. We're failing if politically. We're not addressing. We're just throwing money at broken systems and people, and we're not necessarily doing anything to course correct what's actually going on. Are you seeing the same thing? And if you are, where are you seeing it most? And if not, what are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of, I don't even know how to say this politely, organized chaos. It's sometimes. I'm seeing, like you said, a lot of money thrown at things, and we don't fully understand what we're getting thrown into. I'm also seeing just the ability, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong. This is my opinion. I find it when I first came in as a peer, I've been doing this work for 6 years. When I first came in as a peer, the prerequisite was at least 2 years of clean time.
Yeah, it was. That was something you were
Um,
talking to me about when I initially was thinking about it.
right. And once they dropped that, it turned into it's illegal to ask you that. I understand the formalities around it. I understand that. But what I've seen, since I'm also a trainer, is that people with a lot less, I don't like saying clean time, people with a lot less sobriety or recovery, I should say, um, it takes them longer. It takes them longer because it's 6 months of sobriety or recovery. You're just trying to figure it out yourself. I mean,
For
I
sure.
know where I was 6 months into sobriety, and I was nowhere near where I should be to be able to tell other people how to do things and maneuver things. Um,
I think for a peer, I would agree that the duration of their sobriety is important because, I'm 5 years into this journey, and I'm getting my sponsors made the comments. I've said this on the show too about the hill. You keep going over the hill, and you're going to go over that same hill, and you're just trying to flatten the hill. But each time you go over it, you got the right tools that time. You just got to figure
right,
out how to use them to take the hill
right.
down a little further. I found it at 5 years, it's almost more challenging than it was at 1 year because the challenges are stiffer. They don't tell us, I don't think they may tell us, but I wasn't aware of it, that all those things that I didn't control then doesn't mean that are always going to be out of my control. There's a whole pile of stuff I couldn't control initially that's eventually going to be something I'm going to have to control and deal with. It's going to come
Right.
back in my life at some point in one capacity or another. Not all of it, but much of that. And we're just not ready for it. And I think if a peer is starting to find new understandings of their sober journey without any self-awareness and thinking that this, happy feeling they're feeling because they're out saving the world is all they're basing it on, it's a failed proposition.
Hmm. I agree. I agree.
So, what would you, um, I guess, what would you, for those struggling right now? I mean, if there's, what would you say to them? I mean, if you could say things to them that you believe, if somebody was just going to listen to you, I know a lot of time about listening, but if they were just going to listen to what you got to say, what would you tell them?
I tell them there's help. There is light out there, and this light on the other side is way better than where they're at now. I know they don't see that. I've seen awful things here lately on the news in other
Hmm.
states and stuff like that, and it breaks my heart because I feel like instead of people, videotaping what's going on in these areas, maybe they should roll their sleeves up and start helping and talking to people, trying to figure out a problem. Um, I I feel sometimes a little defeated. I see you just went ahead and said that I should say something. I am going to go on a rant here for a second.
That's okay. That's fine with me. It's your spot.
I'm I feel sometimes like we're fighting a war we're never going to win. And a lot of other people that I have met said the same thing, but the people's lives that we do touch, that we do change, and they do recover. That's what I look at. And you've got to be ready. That's it. Like you were ready. You were so ready, and you kind of made it easy, honestly.
Yeah, looks like the syncing came back up. I'm gonna play your video up and see if we can get the rest of this in with the people actually seeing you. You say I was easy, but and I was still fighting those things, and I still even do the same things in my head that I had then. It's like you're doing good. I think that's the thing for the audience to understand, and anybody that's struggling, is you're not always doing perfectly. You're not always doing great. I
No,
mean, but that doesn't mean you stop your plan.
no, you got to keep moving forward, and that's it. People in recovery, things get thrown at you. Things get thrown at you that you would never expect to be thrown at you, and you're thinking, okay, honestly, my thought was it was never to go back and use anything to get through it. It was just to keep trucking.
Yeah,
I'm a figure it out person, and that's what I just got to keep figuring it out.
right. Um, so I think that that I saw that was what a lot of coaching you'd give me too. I'd hear you say that, figured out. And I think the thing too that you do effectively for other people that are in that work, or even if you're not officially in the work and you're just coming along somebody's life,
Hmm.
allow them to be exactly where they're at without compromising exactly where you're at.
Yep.
You can be
That's
strong, solid in your place and your boundaries, and you can
hmm
let somebody be exactly where they're at. And I'll give an example. You know that this I speak of Mitch just because I was pretty excited to have him on here as a YouTuber. It's kind of fun to have a bigger name YouTuber in his specialty area. But Mitch's stories, I love listening to who he is and what he's about, and digging into why he made the decisions he did. But there's a lot of the Christian side of my audience too that is not going to understand Mitch. They're gonna have a hard time placing themselves where Mitch is at, and I personally don't have. I'm fine with it because I feel like I have things I can learn from Mitch.
hmm
I have things I can learn from Mitch that's going to help other people based on his understanding of a world that I've never seen. And hopefully I have something to offer him and let people like Mitch as well. It's not that, everybody about that we're patron saints of anything. I think if we're allowing ourselves to be exactly where we are and let other people be exactly where they are, and we all start working for a better, more common ground, a more positive environment, we'll do better. But we come in with our positions of what you're supposed to do right now, and it just doesn't work that way.
no,
It
and
does not
I
work that
learned
way.
that a long time ago. It's not black and white. It's very gray. The work I do, the work peers do, period. It's very gray. Um, and a person told me a long time ago when I came into this, you need to know when to walk away too.
You have a hard time with that.
I have a very hard time with it because I don't like to.
I think you're pretty awesome. You suck at
I,
that.
ju- I suck. That's probably one of my biggest shortcomings is being able to turn away and cut somebody off.
Yeah,
Um,
because you wouldn't quit on your own journey. You'd always find out that, well, there's one more option. That's the same thing. There's always one more move to make.
right, right. And sometimes people make it easier for me to do that than others, but it's been one of the key things that I've had in my head since I've been doing this work. And if I get too caught up in it, I start thinking about it. It starts to overcome my everyday thought. Then I know it's time. I'm putting more into the recovery than they're putting into it. If it's taken over me that much.
That is
Um,
really good advice.
if you
That's
are,
really.
yeah.
Don't you think that, that we're kind of going back down a rabbit hole here, but I think it's important to say it. Um, don't you think that's a lot of why peers get in trouble early on anyway? Because there's a lot of gratification and feeling like you're saving somebody,
Yes.
and in regard, and really you're just burning yourself out, and the other person isn't really being saved.
Yep.
They're really just they're accepting another enabling unit in their life.
I would agree with that completely. A lot of the, you see how codependent people are once were in early stuff, and you also, I mean, it's a constant in this peer work. It's a constant check. You got to check yourself. You got to check why you're consumed with it. You got to check what you do. You have to check what your um it's almost like what you're looking to get out of this. It's not about you, and that's what you need to cut out. It's not about you. It's about helping this person
Right.
get to the best part of their life. That's
Usually you can tell intent by how much gossip is coming out of the face. I've noticed that's been a real tell. If somebody's really gossiping as a peer, I've noticed that somebody that's probably misguided a little bit in what their role is.
yep. I
And not so
can't
much about
confirm or
clients, but
deny
about each
that.
other.
I can't.
Okay. There we go. You guys just went through your first module in peer training. I can't confirm or deny that, Sarah. Anyway, but for the those that don't know you, what do you love to do more than be with your husband and your children? You got to tell the world.
I got to tell the world, ride my new Road King.
There you go.
Ride my ride my motorcycle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd see
I think
Sarah coming down the road. See Sarah coming down the road in a Road King. You wouldn't think that she's a lifesaver, but she thinks she's a life taker, but she actually is a lifesaver. So, but I appreciate you, Sarah, a ton. I'm thankful for where you were at the time you were there in my journey and the encouragement you've been all the way through. Things like this show and the work that you and I both do doesn't happen if somebody doesn't invest in us and we don't invest in other people. I certainly would not be here for my own. I had determination that I wanted more, but I couldn't do it, didn't know. And without having people alongside you, you just can't.
Yep,
So,
you need that support.
yep, that's for sure. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. Just wanted to get a few minutes, guys, to meet my peer in jail, Sarah Beverly, and real lifesaver for me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all that are watching this thing, not liking and subscribe, I'll find you. Just kidding. I just need to make sure you like and subscribe. It helps us be seen. I've had some experiences recently where I've got a lot of comments on some videos I posted, and it does make a difference. So appreciate the support. You'll probably see Sarah again when we can actually get her video working well, and we'll talk about something else. Anyway, see you guys soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Chris.